In 1888, in a series of letters to his brother Theo, a starving artist by the name of Vincent van Gogh, in reference to life after death, stated that he knew nothing about it, but that the sight of the stars made him dream. 1 year later, he would go on to paint The Starry Night, which has been adored and wondered at by generations of viewers and is one of the most recognizable pieces of art in the history of the world. Why is that? Well, despite obvious attention to bold colors and textured lines, Vincent was right. There is something about the stars that makes us dream. Humanity has been staring up at the night sky and wondering and imagining, and that innate curious nature has done us so well. In the act of wonder, we have discovered more about our stars than we ever could have imagined. As an amateur astronomer, it is my passion to share the night sky with the people around me. Today, I'd firstly like to share with you a little of the history of stargazing and how it shaped how we see the world. And secondly, I'd like to share stargazing in modern science and how telescopes have changed what we know about the world. And then lastly, I'd like to share with you a little of stargazing right in your own backyard. Before the invention of the telescope, cultures across the world, they looked up into the sky and they didn't have the insight that you and I had, but they were able to use the stars like a calendar, and they were able to track seasons for agriculture and farming, and they were able to use the stars as a navigational tool by using Polaris, the North Star, to help guide them. There were also a multitude of cultures that came up with beautiful stories about how and why these stars were in the sky. But that transition from mythology to science and where we are today was actually a slow one. It was Greek philosophers like Aristotle that first proposed that the earth was round. His belief was that the earth was the center of the universe, and that was widely accepted for 1500 years. It wasn't until the late 15th century that a man named Copernicus and another man named Bruno both kind of held similar views that the earth actually orbited the sun. And that went against religious doctrine at the time. So both of these men were actually very fearful to have their views published. But Bruno, in the end, refused to denounce his observations, and he was burned at the stake for heresy for his belief that the earth was not the center of the universe. Sadly, only 10 years later, Galileo was able to take a spy scope that was newly invented and turn it to the heavens and find real evidence that Copernicus and Bruno were right. And according to NASA's Earth Observatory, Galileo's evidence that he found that these ideas that the earth was actually orbiting the sun was the beginning of the scientific revolution. So now that you know a little bit of the humble beginnings of us in stargazing, and you know that we made some pretty neat discoveries before telescopes were even around, I'm going to share with you what we have found since the invention of the telescope in modern day science. In 1990, NASA launched the Hubble Space Telescope. NASA reports that the Hubble has made more than 1.4 million observations in its lifetime. And these sorts of discoveries are supermassive black holes, planets that have moons that we didn't know about, extrasolar planets, neighboring exoplanets, dark matter, dark energy, and the idea that our universe is expanding. The Hubble was also able to pinpoint an age of our known universe at 13.8 billion years old. That's pretty incredible for only 30 years of discovery. So what's next? I'm excited because next year, October 31st, NASA is launching the James Webb Space Telescope, and that is going to be 100 times more powerful than that of its successor, the Hubble. And the Webb is going to be able to maybe see atmospheres on some of these extrasolar planets that could help us build or find the building blocks of life elsewhere in our universe. And according to NASA, the Webb with unprecedented infrared sensitivity will be able to peer back in time over 13.5 billion years to see some of the first galaxies born after the Big Bang. It's amazing what a couple mirrors and some light can teach us. From the Hubble Space Telescope and just the glimpse of the pieces of the universe to all of the new technology that we have being launched next year, we are on the verge of so much discovery. So lastly, I'm going to teach you how to get started stargazing right from your backyard. You don't need a telescope to get started in stargazing. You just need your eyes in a dark night. Of the 88 recognized constellations here in the Northern Hemisphere, we only have 30 that are viewable, and 5 of those are viewable year round. So start with those 5 constellations. Find Ursa Major that has the Big Dipper, and from there you can find the North Star. That's a great first observation. And then you can locate our 5 naked eye planets. That's Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Saturn, and Mercury. There are apps you can use like Google Sky, and there's a free software called Stellarium that you can look at the night sky right from your computer on a cloudy day, which is great because in the Pacific Northwest, we have a lot of cloudy days. And you can also get involved with places like the Rose City Astronomers. They host star parties and they have small groups, workshops from astrophotography all the way to telescope building. So there is something for everyone. I hope that you have learned a little more about stargazing today, and that from remembering the stories of the people that lived long ago and the people who dared to challenge systems of beliefs to all of the modern day discoveries we've made with the Hubble Space Telescope, you now have a bit of foundation to go out and view the night sky for yourself. You don't need to be an astronomer to learn about the stars in space. You just need to be a Van Gogh. After all, it's our curious nature that keeps us asking questions about the natural world, but it's our ability to dream that helps us imagine a world where those questions are answered. Thank you.